This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
You're listening to Right Side Patriots on the CPR Worldwide Media Network.
We, the people.
Good afternoon and welcome to Right Side Patriots. I'm Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot, along with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor. Diane, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Craig. Hello, everybody.
Boy, I'll tell you, it's good to be on the air. We had some technical difficulties yesterday. We want to apologize for all of that. That was on my end and prevented us from getting on the air. And that's why we're back today, because we've got a couple of great guests lined up for the show, and we wanted to make sure you got to hear what they had to say. First, we're going to have Bill Lumen, and if you don't know that name, you probably should. Bill is with Oath Keepers, a great patriot. He's got some great stories to tell, too. And after that, Jake Danishevsky. And that guy is an immigrant. He came to the United States at the age of 14. He was born and raised in Ukraine, the Soviet Union. And he is going to tell us exactly what's going on over there in Russia with Putin and Obama and all of that mess. So a couple of great guests and a lot more stuff going on. Diane, are you ready to jump into this today?
Absolutely. There's been so much that's been happening this week. We really need to get right on it. And just like the media, we've got to give 24/7 coverage to the plane.
The plane, the plane. You know, every show we start out, we hired ourselves a moderate Muslim intern last week. And he is supposed to be sending us, I think, any minute now, all the topics for the top of the show today. And let me see if, you guys remember his name, right? Mohammed Hussein Obama. He's over in the mountains of Tora Bora right now. Hang on here. Mohammed! Oh, boy, that's annoying. Yeah. Let's see here. Is this the whole list for today? Oh, I guess so. You know, even his emails come with the stench of goat. It's Gotta get an air freshener in here every time that guy messages me. The plane, he's got the plane right on top, Diane, you were right.
Terrific. Hey, ESP.
You know, this missing plane thing, it's 12 days now, 13 days, and we got word early this morning that about 1,500 miles off the coast of Perth, down in Australia, they found some stuff with a satellite they think might be some sort of debris, but at this point, they're not really sure what it is. They're going to try and get down there around sunrise for their time and they've got a ship in the area now. They're going to have planes in the area now. But, you know, whether or not this is debris from the plane, the fact is, Diane, there are all sorts of just wild conspiracy theories out there, and I blame you for one of them.
Oh, you don't like my time continuum theory? That they went to the same island as Lost and they're lost? Hey, it's just as good as any. My favorite, though, conspiracy theory that is out there is the one that the plane has landed in the United States on a airstrip that Obama built. I mean, I can't stand Obama just like the next person, but come on, people. There are certain things Obama just has nothing to do with.
You know, first of all, Obama's never built anything. I mean, he accused us of never building anything, but he's the one that's never built anything. So the idea that he built his own airport, I doubt it. But, look, there's so much out there, so many people. Courtney Love, for goodness sakes, Courtney Love said she spotted the plane the other day.
Oh, dear.
Well, she got on one of those Google Earth things, and she's looking around out there in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and she put up a photo of it on Twitter and with little arrows drawing on it and stuff, and said, well, here's the debris and here's the oil slick, and then she signed it CL. And I'm thinking Courtney Love has probably been hallucinating since the early 90s. So
if even that short time ago, I think she's been hallucinating since the day she was born, and anyone who would give her stuff any credibility is probably hallucinating right along with her.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because the Kuala Lumpurs, the whatever you call them down there, the government, they were intentionally, we found out today, misleading everybody who was searching for this plane. We're talking 25 different countries. They were saying the thing was somewhere up north, and they knew all along that it had turned to the south. But they were afraid to give that information out for fear that they would look like idiots if they did.
Well, what makes them right and everybody else wrong? We have the radar pings that show that plane had turned to the left and was going up north towards what we kind of suspect towards the Pakistan, the Iranian area, or any of the Stan area. And in fact, what's very telling is that this code to turn left apparently was pre-programmed into the plane's computer. The turn left was actually made before the co-pilot said, "Good night, everyone."
Well, and now they've got the pilot, he had that elaborate simulator in his home. They've now got that simulator on an airplane. They're heading it back to Langley. The FBI and the CIA are going to go pouring through that thing, figure out what files got deleted out of that, see if maybe he's got anything to do with this. But the fact is, nobody at this point really knows where that plane is. Even if what they saw in the satellite photo, about 1,500 miles off the coast of Perth, Australia, even if that does turn out to be part of the plane, that's still not where the plane hit the water, because that stuff would have drifted for 12 or 13 days by now.
Exactly. And that debris actually can come from anywhere. In fact, last night someone sent me an email of their supposition, but it was a little more supposition than supposition. Apparently, about a week and a half ago, a cargo vessel fell apart, for lack of a better word. I don't know how a cargo vessel can fall apart, but those were the words that he used.
Oh,
and
I do.
This debris is from the cargo vessel.
I know how those things break apart.
How?
Aliens.
They came through my time continuum.
That's how it's done. That's
Absolutely.
exactly how it's done, folks. We're telling you right now. Look, if anybody can find this plane, it's going to be me and Diane.
Yes, absolutely. Because, hey, I got news for you. We were the ones, before the talking heads on Fox and all the other stations, we were the ones that said this plane has been hijacked and is in one of the Islamic countries.
I'm just waiting to see a picture of a Malaysian 77 on a milk carton.
Oh, that's coming.
I'm just saying.
Oh, that's coming soon. I mean, next week at your supermarket, there it'll be.
Look,
we're not making light of the people that were lost on the plane, because 200 plus innocent lives possibly are lost. They could still be alive if the plane was hijacked. We're not making light of that. What we're making light of is this plane, as serious as the situation is again a distraction used by the media because it's nonstop plane coverage to keep us off all things Obama, all things that are happening in our country, all things that affect our country, like the Ukraine, like the taking over of the internet, which we will discuss in detail further on. All of these things, they're deflections. Deflect their attention away with something scandalous. And in a way, this is a scandal. It's not your usual scandal, but it's, where is the plane? Nobody knows where the plane is. So it's kind of taken on a life of its own, and everybody is focused on it. Obama is running rampant here in our country, but we're not aware of it.
You know, it's funny that you mention the Ukraine. Because do you know who they sent over there? Do you know who Obama sent over into that part of the world to try and make things all happy, nice?
My favorite person, Uncle Joe Bite Me. That is going to be an actual farce. Now,
I gotta tell you, and this because everybody's looking for the plane, this did not get a lot of coverage. But there was Uncle Joe Bite Me. He was over in Poland. This is 2 or 3 days ago. And he's over there to kind of boost him up, give him some moral support, you know, because, yeah, that's what vice presidents do, I guess. I mean, if they're not at somebody's funeral, they're trying to pump up the crowd. So here's Biden over there. Now let me read to you this quote, because this is stunning. He stood there in front of the entire country of Poland, and he said, and I quote, 15 years ago, I was honored as the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee to lead the fight for Poland's admission into NATO, unquote. Now, here's the problem. You see, Poland joined NATO in 1999, all right? And, yeah, that was 15 years ago. But Joe Biden was not the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee until 2001.
Exactly. I mean, the man, Mr. Foot and Mouth, doesn't even know when he served in certain offices. And this is who Obama sends over to make peace, to keep everybody placated and happy. I mean, it's just a joke. This entire administration and all the people in it are a joke.
Now, you got to also remember what else is going on. I mean, you've got Putin, you've got him seizing control, this farce of a referendum in Crimea. You've got his troops all over the Ukraine right now. You've got NATO countries, and we'll get into this too with Jake when we get him on the show a little bit later today. But all this stuff is going on, and what is Obama doing while Biden is over there claiming responsibility for things he had no business being mixed up in? Barack Obama, our dictator, was picking out his March Madness brackets, and get this. Yesterday, he was screening a brand new movie about Cesar Chavez in the White House.
Oh, God. I mean, and people still like him. It's amazing how dumb, and I'm going to say it, how dumb some of the American public is. They're buying into his nonsense hook, line, and sinker. And that's why, yes, Obama has made us a laughingstock in the eyes of the world. But come on, some of our own citizens are just as bad as he is.
Well, you know, what's more important, picking out your March Madness brackets or trying to do something to help people in a sovereign nation who are about to be taken over by the Soviet Union, of all things?
But you don't understand. Don't you remember a year and X number of months ago, he said to the then Russian president, oh, things will get better when I'm back in office. You know, something along those lines.
He told Medvedev that he would have more flexibility after his reelection.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, well, has plenty of flexibility, all right. He's bending backwards as Putin walks all over him and walks all over our country and does nothing about it. Oh, wait, excuse me. He did do something about it. He stuck useless sanctions on 20 individuals. Instead of sticking them on a country, economic sanctions that could hurt, he sanctions 12 very wealthy Russian and Ukrainian individuals who are probably laughing their heads off at him.
Well, and then Putin turns right around and sanctions, half a dozen or a dozen or so American citizens, just, kind of an in-your-face thing. But how many people live in the Soviet Union? How many millions and millions and tens and hundreds of millions of people live over there, and Obama slapped sanctions on less than 24 of them?
It's comical. This whole thing is absolutely comical because, Putin is just running rampant. And you know something? If we're not going to stand up to him, then he's going to keep doing it. And we're not standing up to him. We are allowing him to do it. This was a sovereign nation. The Ukraine, Crimea, they're sovereign nations. And nobody's saying a word because we're all focused on the plane.
Well, if they would find that plane, suddenly Obama would have to sit up straight and maybe turn his teleprompter back on. But until that plane is found, both Obama and Putin can pretty much do whatever they want right now. And Putin is the only one that's showing any backbone in the thing. Obama's got flexibility. He's got so much flexibility. I don't even want to tell you where he's got his head right now.
What a visual picture. I think we've seen that picture up on Facebook quite a few times. But this whole thing is just ridiculous with the Ukraine because here it was, a sovereign nation has been invaded seriously. And instead of us coming to the aid of a sovereign nation who wants to be westernized, who wanted to join the European community, what does Obama do? He bows down to the countries that are the cesspools of the world. Those are the ones we have to fight for, the cesspools. But ones that want democracy, want to join the European community, want to be westernized, no. Then we just turn our backs on.
I got to tell you talk about Obama turning his back on people. It's not just people in other countries, Diane. It's people right here in this country. Have you heard the name Larry Basich? Basich. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and I think I am. Larry Basich. He's from Las Vegas. I think he's in Nevada.
Yes.
And that's Harry Reid's domain, by the way.
Yes.
And Larry, he had good insurance. And long about October, he signs up for whatever reason for socialism. He enrolls in Obamacare. Now, this gentleman, Mr. Basich, is one of the few people that we know of who has actually paid his premiums. Okay? So he is a paid up member of socialist Obamacare. Now, that was in October. Comes November, and Mr. Basich has a heart attack. He survives it. Okay? He survives the heart attack. He had to have open heart surgery. Of course, it was an emergency. Now, Mr. Basich is stuck with a $410,000 bill from the hospital.
Yep. But you know what? He was dumb enough to sign up for Obamacare. I don't wish that kind of bill on anyone. Of course not. But Obamacare, some people call it a Ponzi scheme. And they're really not that far off. Here it is, the man makes his payments. He signs up like a good little sheeple, goes into the exchanges, does what he has to do, and then when he needs it, instead of Obamacare being there to help him, he gets screwed by Obamacare.
Well, and let's be clear on something. We don't know for sure, but he may have been one of the people that was tossed from their old insurance and had no choice but to sign up for Obamacare. So
That's true, but I think I remember reading about him saying he voluntarily, that he wanted to be the first one to sign up for Obamacare.
Good for him. Now, how's it working out for him? Here's the problem. His insurance company is saying, well, we can't pay for that because it wasn't approved by Obamacare. And Obamacare is saying, well, that's going to be on his own bill, and he's going to have to pay for it himself. And he is now in the middle of a lawsuit. He doesn't have $410,000 to pay. They're trying to work this thing out. But right now, it just, the website, part of this was the Nevada website. Now, Nevada had their own state website. Here's where the real problem came in for Larry Bassage. He paid, okay? He got a notification, or he called his insurance company or the Obamacare website and said, Am I set up? Is my payment been logged in? They told him yes. Now they're looking back at it and they're saying, well, we don't have any record of you.
How convenient. Isn't that convenient? When they have to pay out, suddenly we don't know who you are.
Never heard of you?
I mean, can you say the word scam?
Boy, I tell you, it sure looks like a scam. But now we've got a few minutes left here in the top part of the show. And last week, Diane, you told our listeners about a very, very close friend of yours who is literally fighting for what's left of her life with Obamacare right now. And it's not getting any better. And what I want you to do, and I know this is tough, but I want you to bring our listeners up to date with what's happening right now.
Okay, right now, yesterday, my dear friend was told she has 2 weeks to 6 weeks to live. That's it. She has glioblastoma. It has taken over her brain. I won't go into details of what has happened to her, but glioblastoma, from the day you're diagnosed to the day you're put in hospice, it is a death sentence. And being that it's brain cancer, it changes you in the most horrific ways, which I won't go into detail on here. But the problem is, not only was she caught up in the paperwork while she was waiting for one last chance at some more time, that delay in the paperwork, which was 12-week delay, caused her cancer to run rampant, caused the decision yesterday for her doctor to dismiss her. There's nothing that can be done.
Okay, now
so
let me just interrupt here for a second. Now this is Obamacare, folks. This is Obamacare in action. These are people who had a great insurance policy for more than 2 decades with a very reputable insurance program.
Yeah, and they still have it, mind you. But the problem is that Obamacare is the law of the land. It is even the law over private insurance companies. So even the private insurance companies cannot do certain things anymore. And the thing now that they're caught in, here it is, she's in end-stage care, literal end-stage care. When they bought the policy, they had in-home, round-the-clock nursing care for 60 days, which probably would have taken her to the end. Now they find out, when they call in hospice, you only have round-the-clock nursing care for 15 days.
15 days. Now, keep this in mind. She has been given anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks to live. Now, if it comes in on the short end, 2 weeks, okay. But if she lingers over the 2 weeks, after 15 days, her insurance company has to pull the 24/7 home care hospice out of their home.
At the worst possible time. With what people don't understand with glioblastoma, yes, they gave her 2 to 6 weeks. Could she go maybe to 7 and 8 weeks? Yeah, absolutely. Will it be pleasant? No, it won't. And at that point, you need the professionals there. If you make the choice to pass in your own home, you need, for the family even, you need the professionals there. Especially with this kind of cancer, it's not pretty. And not only does it destroy, obviously, the body, but it destroys who the person is. You lose who you are. And you need the professionals to help the family, the loved one, the friends deal with this. The person inside dies before the body dies. And they're going to pull out the people. Yes, you can appeal it. There's no saying you can't. But if there was a 12-week delay in getting her an inexpensive drug that could prolong her life, imagine the delay just to get round-the-clock nursing care to end her life. Obamacare sucks, in plain English, and it affects every single American whether you have private insurance, whether you have a PPO, an HMO, whether you are on Obamacare, it affects each and every one of us because it was the law of the land, is the law of the land, passed by the stupid Democrats before they even read it. Welcome to hell, everybody, because this is going to affect everyone.
And there you got Harry Reid sitting there on his high horse in the Senate on the floor a couple of weeks ago, saying that anybody who's out there telling these stories, whether it's you, Diane, or whether it's Larry Bassich over in Nevada, whether it's any of our listeners out there, you're liars. You're liars. You're telling these bad stories about Obamacare. They can't possibly be true. The stories are lies, and the people that are telling them are liars. Well, I've got something to tell Harry Reid. Go to hell.
Absolutely, and he can take Nancy Pelosi, Barack Hussein Obama, and all the idiot Democrats who voted for this without reading it with him.
This is Obamacare in action, folks. This is what it's doing to people. This is just the beginning. This is the stuff that's in the bill that nobody read and nobody cared about. This is what's going to be happening all across this country. It's already started, and it's not going to get any better. We are going to keep you up to date on these stories about Obamacare whenever we hear them, whenever things are happening with this. And just in the seconds or so I have left here, it came out yesterday that the insurance industry is now saying, because of the low number of people that are actually signing up and actually paying for their Obamacare, the price of your Obamacare policies next year, 2015, will double.
Oh, happy day. They're not high enough as it is. Now they're going to double even more. I'm serious, guys. Welcome to hell.
The Unaffordable Care Act just keeps getting more and more unaffordable. Look, folks, it's a downer, but we've got a great show planned for you. We've got two great guests coming up. We're going to start with Bill Lumen from Oath Keepers. Then we're going to have Jake Danishevsky, an American, a patriot, a guy who immigrated to the United States at the age of 14 back in 1979 from Kiev, Ukraine, the Soviet Union. Folks, you're not going to want to miss the rest of the show. Stick around. We'll be back after just a couple of messages. And I think we're both back. Diane, are you there?
I'm here, ready to go.
Look at that. We have defeated the Obama machine. We have rejoined CPR Worldwide Media Network and beat the internet kerfluffle.
Yes, we have.
Boy, I'm telling you, some days it's a struggle to get things going. But like I was saying at the top of the show, folks, we have such an incredible show for you coming up. We've got a great guest. He's going to be on with us. We had to tape the interview a couple of days ago because he's a busy guy, and I'm talking about Bill Lumen. And Diane, give us just a brief little bio or introduction on Bill Lumen.
Well, Bill Lumen is the regional director of Oath Keepers for Northwest Georgia. I had the honor of meeting him on March 1st at the Great Awakenings rally, where he just blew people right out of their seats. He gave a wonderful presentation about the Oath Keepers, about veterans issues, and about all issues Obama. And Bill has a great story to tell everybody because he was the first person investigated by the Secret Service for being a racist when Barack Obama took office. You guys will love this story.
You're going to love Bill Lumen. We're going to take a couple of quick ads for you. A little Steve Brock music. Don't tread on me, and we'll be right back with Bill Lumen from Oath Keepers.
I believe that every single one of us has what it takes
to win back-to-back gold.
Ski faster than any other human.
I believe it's possible to overcome fear.
I believe
it's possible to destroy stereotypes.
To start over, to be the toughest,
the strongest,
the bravest in the world. When we work together, we can make it all possible. That's why Citi has donated $500,000 to its Every Step of the Way program, an initiative created to help future athletes reach their full potential through sport programs that inspire us. Like figure skating in Harlem.
Like youth enrichment services. Like Team for Tomorrow.
The Team USA Stay on the Slopes initiative.
Now spread the word and help decide how much of that money goes toward
offering personal support and financial assistance to Olympians in need.
Promoting the growth of hockey in the U.S.
Expanding the sport of luge into new regions.
Support for wounded service members. Join Team City and let's turn a world of potential into reality.
Go to city.com/everystep and help decide where the money goes.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Just an old black sheep from the family tree. I'm now a vet and a victim of society. Hell, I stood by the gun just to keep us free. Now my own damn country's turned its back on me. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside. Don't tread on me. You don't tread on me. From the Revolution War to the Middle East, I come back to a country that's lost its peace. And now here I stand on the promised land, free and a slave to Uncle Sam. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside. Don't tread on me. You don't tread on me. Well, you think you know me, but you haven't got a clue. I stood and fought so that you would not have to. Don't tread on me. Yeah, don't tread on me. You wanna judge me by my leathers and the steel I ride? Well, you don't know me. You need to step aside. Don't tread on me. Now don't tread on me. Now don't tread on me. Now don't tread on me. Yeah, the old Middle East is like a man down. The old WSKIA. And our fighting soldiers in a foreign land.
And we're back on Right Side Patriots with Craig Andreessen and Diane Sori, and our special guest today, Bill Lumen. Bill Lumen, you might recognize the name from Oath Keepers. You might recognize the name from a few years ago, I believe it was back in 2011. He slapped a sign on the side of his truck that says, "This company is not hiring until Obama is gone." Bill is our guest today. Bill, welcome to the show.
Welcome,
Well,
Bill.
thank you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, sir.
You know, it's great to have you. A lot of people probably don't realize, because they see on Facebook, they see in interviews, they hear you on radio, you know, talking about the all the Oath Keeper stuff and the different things that are going on, and we're going to get into that. But you also are a United States Marine.
Yes, sir. I'm a 10-year Marine Corps veteran. And I served proud of
service.
Well, thank you, ma'am. To be honest with you, you don't need to thank me. It was my job. I'm supposed to do that. I took that oath.
You went and fought in Desert Storm. You were over there in the early 90s in the sandbox. And what made you decide that that was the thing to do, for you to sign up, for you to take that initial oath and defend your country?
Well, it began as I was getting out of high school. The economy, if you remember, was under the Carter administration. And the economy was very similar to today's economy. Not to say that Carter is just as bad a president as Mr. Obama, but the economy took a tank, and we were struggling as a nation to even find jobs. So, to be honest and frank with you, my initial reason for joining the military or joining the Marine Corps was to gain employment. But once I joined the Marine Corps and took the oath and earned that brotherhood and earned the title of United States Marine, it set in that the oath had meaning. The oath is there to tell each individual service member and our law enforcement that we are there to defend the Constitution, and by proxy that defense of the Constitution defends the liberties that were identified by our founders as God-given liberties and freedoms in the Bill of Rights that by proxy defended the people of the United States.
Bill, when you took that oath initially then and served in the U.S. Marines, did you ever think the oath was going to come back the way it has in your life now as a regional director of Oath Keepers?
No, sir, didn't. But because I never thought that this country would reach this point where I would be called back in my heart to assert the fact that my oath doesn't have an expiration date. It is an oath that I've taken for life. And even then, it doesn't die because more Oath Keepers are behind me that will live and continue forward. The calling for Oath Keepers was very strong, and it came out right as this administration took off when they issued or leaked a memo. Somebody leaked a memo from DHS that identified people or veterans that are coming back and veterans that are on our soil as potential recruits for right-wing extremism. And at the same time, they were whitewashing the Islam reputation and say that Islam was a peaceful religion and that there was only a small portion or a small radical fringe of Islam that was committing these acts of terrorism. When that memo came out, I kicked into high gear and was looking for an honorable group that I could join, that I felt good with, that ran along the same mentality as I run, that I'm here, I'm a veteran, you're not going to recruit me for extremism, I'm not going to be a terrorist, and I'm going to assert myself publicly and say, I am here for our nation, for our Constitution. So, did I think we'd ever have to do this? No. I thought once I got out of the Marine Corps that I could roll over into the civilian community, build a home, have a family, and move on, and get gray, and then eventually have a 21 gun salute. I didn't think that I would have to rekindle this part of my life and be so assertive.
The problem is in today's United States, in today's world, we all have to be assertive because, like you said when you were speaking about the Islamists, none of them condemn. You don't hear the imams out in the streets condemning what the jihadis do. You don't hear the so-called moderates condemning what the jihadis do. And it all boils down to the fact, if you don't condemn, you condone.
As our founders have said, if you're passive, then you're part of the problem.
Right, there's no passivity anymore.
People bring up right-wing extremism. They bring up the bombing of the Oklahoma building in Oklahoma City, the federal building. And if I'm not mistaken, we did take that guy to trial. We did put him to death. We also convicted his accomplice. We as a nation stood behind that decision, and you don't see that from the Muslim community. You don't. The day that 9/11 happened, it's well documented that when as the planes were hitting our towers in New York, and the plane was hitting the Pentagon, most of the Middle East erupted and rejoiced the fact that our nation was attacked.
They were rejoicing in Newark, New Jersey, in L.A., in cities across America, only in the Muslim community. Instead of being out there screaming on top of their lungs, this isn't us, they do just the opposite, and they rejoice. Yeah. That says it all.
Them being passive is just in my mind, and many Americans, I think, can understand where I'm going with this. Many Americans believe that them being quiet is just condoning the acts of terrorism and the attacks against not only our nation, but if I'm not mistaken, in just last year, in 2013, there was 51 nations attacked by Islam.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, there was over 29,000 deaths and injuries attributed directly to terroristic activity by this supposed peaceful religion. And that doesn't sound like a small fringe group, and that's it.
No, that's a well-organized, well-oiled machine moving forward to try to start the worldwide Islamic Caliphate.
Now, Bill, you kind of received a backhanded offer, or honor, let's say, when you became, the first person under the Obama administration, the first civilian to be contacted by the Secret Service?
Yes, and as a note keeper, and I was a note keeper then too. I looked at it as a recruiting opportunity, and I assure you that both those gentlemen, the notoriety. I didn't do the research myself. I was just amazed that they were at my house, and I was amazed that the circumstances dictated that they were to pursue an investigation of some redneck from Texas that was living in Georgia that put a sign on his truck. But as it unfolded, I was on the road coming back from a job site, and my wife calls me up and says, "Honey, you got some friends here that want to visit you." And I said, "Well, I'm busy. I'm on my way home." And I told her, I said, "I'm about 27 minutes out. Tell them I'll be there as quick as I can." And she said, "You don't understand. They're Secret Service." And I said, and I want to put it in PG format, I said, "No friggin' way." And she said, "Yeah, I'm serious." I said, because I thought she was playing a joke with me. We'd already been bombarded by some liberal attacks on the internet, and we'd gotten a couple calls at that point. And I took a 27-minute drive and knocked it down to about 19, and unfortunately my sheriff didn't catch me. When I pulled up, lo and behold, there's that black SUV sitting in the driveway, and it was properly escorted by a deputy from my sheriff's department because they had to come in and notify the sheriff that they were going to visit me. And he was blindsided by it, too. He had no indication they were even coming into his county. He actually said to them, "Well, if you really want to go visit Bill, I'm going to send a deputy with you. Good luck." And so he sent one of my friends with him, and which they needed directions to my house anyway, so they just followed him down. But we went through, I'm sure, the same interview that Ted Nugent went through at a later date. It was a multi-page questionnaire that asked, various questions like, have you gotten a head injury? Have you ever attended a political rally where the Secret Service was present? Have you ever tried to commit suicide? They asked all kinds of different questions trying to get into your psyche. And I answered all of them. We were sitting on the back porch because my wife wouldn't let him in the house. So then they asked if they could do a permissive search, and I said, "Do I need a lawyer?" And they said, "Have you got anything to hide? It would really go a long way if you give us permissive search of the house." I said, "Well, I ain't got nothing to hide. Come on down." And I gave them a full tour of the house, and they looked at my guns, and they chit-chatted with me, and they didn't see anything. They had one thing they wanted to look at a little close, and they understood what it was, and it was aerosol cans. Why they were looking at aerosol cans, I don't know, but it said diet penetrant on it, and it's something I use to inspect cranes with. And then he wanted to look at my Facebook page, so I logged in on the Facebook page, and the third entry down was my dream ticket for 2012 for president and vice president at the time. I put that posting up that morning was Herman Cain. I put their picture side by side, Herman Cain and Alan West.
Oh, they must have loved that.
Well, they did. And matter of fact, they busted out laughing, and I looked at them and I was dismayed. I looked at them and said, "What's up with this?" And they said, "Well, we were sent here by an individual that had claimed that you were a racist and that you posed a threat to the President of the United States." I said, "No way." And they said, "Obviously you're not a racist. This is terminated. This interview's over." And then they asked me if I had any questions for them. And I asked them a series of questions like, what do you think of Islam? And what do you think of our new president? And do you think he is honorable? And they give me they never crossed that line of being disloyal to their position, but they give me as straight an answer as their position would allow them to give.
How early, Bill, into Obama's administration was this? I mean, was this just weeks into it, or was this a year into it? When?
Oh, this was 2011 election season. We were getting ready to go into the primaries. They were already attacking the front runners that were honorable, in my opinion, like Michelle Bachmann and Herman Cain, and they were digging up dirt on each other and allowing Romney to filter back up to the top. And it's just my opinion is how that whole primary was being run. But so it was right during the 2011-2012 election, or re-election of Mr. Obama.
Things were heating up. Obama was obviously worried because, conservatives, we in the Tea Party and conservative patriots are thinking at that time, we've got to get this guy out of the White House. We've got to elect conservatives. We've got to put this country back on the right path, everything. So they were obviously worried that somebody in your position, a business owner, and somebody who was outwardly in the community as a conservative, a strong conservative, an oath keeper, that you and your crane business, because you would not hire any new personnel until Obama was out of office, was a direct threat to the Oval Office.
They did consider that a threat. As a matter of fact, Mr. Holder was supposedly investigating me at a later date for the possibility, after the sign went viral and I was on Fox News, he was supposedly investigating me for election tampering and election fraud, and because of the sign in my opinionated ways. So that never spawned anything. They really couldn't go after a little guy, down here in North Georgia that only has 7, 8 employees and 5 trucks. So.
I mean, that's how ludicrous this entire administration is. Instead of focusing on problems, they focus on individuals who don't like them.
Yeah, and it becomes more and more and more apparent. You've got the NSA doing what they're doing. You've got the IRS attacking conservative groups during that same era to keep them from being valid 501(c)(3)s and getting that nonprofit status, so they can't actively run a campaign or, let's say, swift vote Mr. Obama. So they were put out of commission. And the whole time they're doing that, if you remember, they're saying the Tea Party's dead.
Yes. The Tea Party is far from dead. It's getting more and more active as each day goes on. In fact, some of us conservative Republicans now go under the banner of Tea-Publicans. We're the ones that want to get rid of the establishment Republicans and replace it with Tea Party people who hold conservative values. In other words, redo the Republican Party to really be about we the people.
Well, yes, ma'am. I totally agree with that. And as far as conservative values, I did entertain when our state GOP approached me here in Georgia after I got some notoriety. I entertained the idea after NDAA was voted on, and Zaxby Chambliss, our senator, along with Mr. Isaacson, Johnny Isaacson, both voted as senators for NDAA and got it through the first time. I was approached by the GOP to run against Zaxby this election cycle we're in the midst of now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I immediately I was mad. Because I read into the possibility of perverting that, because we've already got examples of how the Patriot Act has been perverted, especially under this administration, how the No Child Left Behind that Bush put in place has been perverted, especially under this administration, and more and more of our liberties are being sucked away and taken away. So immediately as soon as I read the rider they put on that NDAA, I was livid, and it just so happened that same passion was reflected here in Georgia in the GOP. So they approached me, and as I was wanting to run for senator, I was thinking, I'll run for room and board. That's a conservative value.
Right.
You get me up there, I'll do the voting. And then I was thinking about putting a network up where all my constituents and any citizen in the state of Georgia that would get internet active would tell me how to vote on each individual bill, and then I would just go by how they tell me to vote. And it made my job easier. And another thing was I was only going to run for one term, because I firmly believe that the elitists, or what we call rhinos,
yes,
have changed the Republican Party's vision so much, so dramatically that, and I think you heard me say this down there at the Great Awakening in Florida, in Tampa. It's no longer two parties; it's one party, and it's called the tyrannical party.
Yeah.
They're just giving us a little bit of a show here,
Well, I have a funny saying that the left. We know where the left is; they're way over on the left. But now what's happening is the right is starting to move so close to the left that they can shake hands together. They're becoming almost one party.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's almost as if a tsunami has pushed both political parties in the same beach.
Yes.
It's amazing. And the only thing my point was, if we got term limits in place for these positions, it's very likely that ability to make a career out of these positions will go away.
Absolutely.
You know, Bill, I want to get into a subject matter that I know is near and dear to your heart as a United States Marine, and that is the situation with the VA, the backlog that we always hear about, you know, some 730 to 750,000 of our veterans are backlogged from getting treatment at the VA, but you've got a little bit different take on this because you've done a lot more research into this than most people have.
Well, I'm not saying that I've done a lot more research. I got my ear to the ground at my level. And one of the things we're seeing out here is that, yes, there is a huge backlog. There is and the VA is trying to, they've always been, depending on the administration, they've either been partially or somewhat well funded, or they're not funded at all. So that is kind of a given that there is going to be a backlog because of the lethargic way they fund the VA. The government doesn't take care of our veterans. They don't take care of our veterans because they got other things to do, like give away cell phones and ensure that they've got votes for the next reelection. But, and by the way, myself and Navy SEAL Ben Smith and the CEO is a lady by the name Rachel Proctor. We started a nonprofit to help try to fill that void, and I'm plugging it a little bit here. But it's helping ourwarriors.org. But getting back on topic, where we need to go, the VA is destroying records to kind of make that backlog disappear, hoping that these veterans will go away. And there's a huge backlog of veterans that have been constantly and chronically seeking these benefits that they were told they would have when they get out of the military. You got veterans that are Vietnam era, some that are even World War II era that are still seeking those benefits, but they keep getting pushed away or pushed aside. But if you talk to any veteran that's coming back from what we call the sandbox, Afghanistan or Iraq, you'll hear them say, well, immediately as soon as I get out, I'm told to go to the VA, check in. And then what they're doing under this administration and under Mr. Obama's more recent executive orders is they're going into the VA. They're being diagnosed with PTSD, whether they have it or not. They're being given meds, and then they're immediately told they're not allowed to have a weapon. And
the reasoning behind this, folks, and this is very important. The reasoning behind this, and what our guest Bill Lumen from Oath Keepers is saying right now, is because these are the people, the very people coming back from military service that are the most capable of defending our liberties at home. And this is why they don't want them to have weapons. This is part of the Obama administration's move to eliminate the Second Amendment, right?
Eliminate the Second Amendment by strategically starting and testing the waters and taking away weapons from various groups and various factions. And if you don't think this is going to affect your average citizen out here, you need to read a little bit into Obamacare, because and my wife carries a concealed weapons carry permit, and she does take an antidepressant at times. Now she quit taking that antidepressant. She seems to be much happier now, to be honest with you. And but because that's in her medical record, it's getting ready to be or is on internet access to the government, they can come down and send a letter to her and say, you're no longer, turn your concealed weapons carry permit in, you're no longer allowed to have a weapon. And that's where it's going to hit the American people as they move forward towards that disarmament that they so desire.
They don't understand the whole meaning of the Second Amendment. Ronald Reagan had a famous quote, you have to protect I don't remember it exactly, but something to the words of, we need to be able to protect ourselves from our own government.
Yes, ma'am.
Because our government is basically running amok. And what Obama doesn't understand, and what a lot of people don't understand, is the American militia, all of us behind the scenes. We are the biggest militia in the world. He can do whatever he thinks he's able to do. But we're not going to go down without a fight.
Well, our Connecticut friends are now what's becoming a shining example of that. Exactly. And a couple of days ago, someone had sent me a question, are they confiscating guns in New York City? So I contacted
people that I have in New York City, and I asked them, and they said, no, they're not confiscating guns. They're confiscating rifles. It's not that they're taking them away. They're going and insisting you register certain rifles. Nowhere in our Constitution does it say we have to register our firearms with anybody.
Well, I don't agree on registering firearms. Registration leads to confiscation.
Exactly.
And that's apparent. We've historically in the books, we know this, even though they try to rewrite the history books constantly. We know that Hitler has done that, and many other nations, China, Russia, they all seek to disarm their populace for one reason, that's for control. And but yeah, you're right. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that individual states will be allowed to regulate arms. In no wording like that. What it does say is shall not be infringed.
Right.
And that's very clear to me. You know, when I go out and I look at and I inspect the crane, there's should and there's shall. And should is that's a little gray area the government allows when it comes to OSHA and various regulatory agencies. It's a gray area. You should have guards in place or something like that, or you shall. And shall means you got to do it, or you're going to be fined.
Okay.
And shall not be infringed means a lot to me. That key word our founders put in place, obviously, weighed heavy on their minds, or they wouldn't have put it in such a text that it could not be argued.
Well, let me ask you a question. There is a lot of buzz going around about Dr. Benson possibly running for president. And don't get me wrong, he's a great man. But he's against our Second Amendment. He is not a supporter of it. How can we get people to understand we cannot have someone as a president who does not support our Second Amendment?
Well, the only like Oath Keepers does, we reach, teach, and inspire, and that's a primary mission of Oath Keepers, is to reach out to everybody out there and reach, teach, inspire them, that those that have taken the oath, and even people that haven't taken the oath. The only thing we can do is just throw it out there and constantly bombard the public with that knowledge, and let them make that decision. Now, I like him.
So do I.
He's very well spoken. He has a lot of common sense approach. Until you just said that, I had no clue.
Look it up. Yeah.
I will look it up, but I had no clue.
He even said it on Hannity one night that he is not a big proponent of the Second Amendment, and I was blown away, totally blown away by that.
Well, now, as an Oath Keeper, if I were to ever have audience with him, I would take it as another recruiting opportunity to maybe better educate this fine or well-educated man, obviously, because he is a neurosurgeon.
Absolutely.
But I would better educate him in the thought process of what our founders' intent was, or try to, or attempt to, and try to get him to understand, if we don't have this in place, then our government no longer fears us. And if our government no longer fears us, then we have another incident where somebody can impose their tyrannical power on the populace. The day and era of the pitchforks and swords is over.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
It seems to me that our founders and framers entrusted this country to us. They came up with this incredible plan for a government and how a government should be run of, by, and for the people, and that how the people should not be subjected to the will of a tyrannical leader or tyrannical government. And once they put that in place, they trusted that future generations, and that includes us, would see that their vision was upheld. And that's where we have to wake some people up today, I think, Bill, because, the idea that we now have a president who is willing to use his pen and subvert Congress to get his way, not necessarily what's best for the nation, for the people, but just get his way politically, and we see him do it every single day. When they came knocking on your door a couple of years ago to question you, it was a matter of intimidate one who has people who follow him through social media, and you can intimidate a good number of people. And we see that with the IRS targeting of conservative groups, let's say. It's the same type of thing. It's Chicago thug politics.
It is.
What it is.
And my incident was the first under this administration. There has been, if you were to do a search, I'm sure on YouTube, I've done it, there's been many, many, many more people that have been approached for saying something a little off color or a little wrong about this administration. And there's videotape of these instances where Secret Service agents are being utilized to go in, and just their presence is intended to intimidate. You are now under investigation kind of attitude. You need to, and I was told by these guys, hey, just tone it down a little bit. After we parted friends. And,
but they still have a record on you. That's the thing. You're still in their watch system.
Ma'am, Diane, I have never met a timid Marine. And that was that was where they faulted this situation.
Yes.
And once you got a record that they're going to play with you, and like a cat would play with a ball or a mouse, then you might as well get out there and get public about it and be verbal about it.
Exactly.
And that's and by speaking like back during the Revolutionary War, like the Black Robe Regiment spoke, in building numbers, you build safety. And by waking up people, you rebuild the nation's, our founders' intent of the people being in charge by the more and more people you wake up. And then in that, selfishly, you also build safety in numbers. So the more people that step up and get out there, and there's a lot of us now. And, yes, 3 or 4 years ago, there wasn't many. You got Wild Bill for America. You've got Ben Smith, the Navy SEAL. We got Mad Max Mullen coming on board with our speaking tour group. You've got many state chapter presidents, the Oath Keepers, that are getting out there and they're deciding that I hate being on stage, but I'm going to do it anyway. We need leadership, and I got to fill that void until a better leader comes along. So,
and we're all in this battle. We're all in this battle for our country together, because if we let our guard down, we'll lose.
Well, one thing, the beauty of the Constitution and the beauty of our founders' design, it's simple, it was genius, and it has stayed off. It has stayed off communism or any kind of tyrannical government for over 238 years. Or we're sitting at 238 now. And only since Woodrow Wilson has this socialist movement been after us or attacking us. And I try to say that Woodrow Wilson was one of the first socialist-type presidents. And, of course, we took a big hit during the FDR era, and Jimmy Carter and our friend Bill up there, they didn't do much to bring us back to conservative values. And then we had an honorable president that did as much as he could, Ronald Reagan, to bring us back. But we have been numbed for 100 years of attack. We have been numbed to believe that, it's business as usual. Let's keep going on. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. We're only going to take the veterans after we villainize veterans. We're going to take their weapons, so you're a safer community. And then the next thing you know, they're knocking at your door. And if you're a mom with 2 kids like my wife, and you got a concealed weapons carry permit, and you want to protect you and yours, you're going to have your rights taken away.
Yeah, and that's what this administration is all about, taking away the rights of we the people as he tramples on the Constitution, because the man has no respect for the Constitution whatsoever. And when you don't have respect for the Constitution, you don't have respect for we the people. It goes hand in hand. And we cannot allow that to happen. That's why all of us do what we can in the way that we can do it best.
Well, and by adhering to the Constitution, by respecting the Constitution, our guest today, Bill Lumen, has really become probably one of Obama's biggest threats, just because he respects the Constitution. And I got to tell you, Bill, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show today. We look forward to having you on again and again as we go down this radio path and try to wake up America and get this country back. If people want to become part of the Oath Keepers, if they want to learn more, they can just go to the website?
Well, yes, sir. It's simple to get on there. We have a small donation, and that puts you in the network so that all your states will get visibility. But the website address is oathkeepers.org. And that'll get you to our national site. And once you join, your state leadership, whichever state you're in, should pick up on you that you have joined. It also give you access to the blog, so you can yell and scream and say, "I'm here," and then you can start moving forward with the team.
And I'm proud to say I'm a member of Oath Keepers, and it was an honor meeting you at the Great Awakenings rally in Tampa, and you were just awesome. Just awesome.
Well, I'm unscripted, Diane. To be honest with you, when I give a speech, I don't know what I'm saying. I just know I'm saying the right. I hope I'm saying the right things, and a lot of people have complimented me on that, speaking from the heart. And you just did, and thank you.
You're very welcome.
It was an honor to be there.
As we wrap this interview up, I'm going to use a word to describe Bill Lumen that will never be used to describe Barack Hussein Obama. Leader. Bill, thank you so much for being our guest today on Right Side Patriots, and we look forward to having you on again.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Bill.
It was a great honor.
And that was our recorded conversation with Bill Lumen, a great patriot who we look forward to having back on the show again. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back after a little Billy Joel's Back in the USSR, we'll be talking to another great patriot, Jake Danishevsky. Folks, stick around. You do not want to miss this next interview.
Dad, Katy Perry is coming to town. Can we get tickets, please?
Tickets? Sure. How many?
Well, there's Hannah and Maddie and Jen and Sarah and Sarah.
Whoa, hold on. Here it comes. We can't forget about your older sister.
Thank you.
Seriously? What? I get 2 times the thank you points on each ticket. Can I come? Yeah.
The Citi Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on entertainment and dining out with no annual fee. To apply, go to Citi.com/thankyoucards.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Back in the USSR, that was Billy Joel from back in the day, back when he was young and back when he had hair. And the reason we played that is because we've got a great patriot and a guy who I am so proud to call my friend. Jake Danishevsky joins us. And Jake is a guy who grew up, spent his first 14 years living in the Soviet Union. This was when it was still the Soviet Union. He immigrated to the United States in 1979 with his family at the age of 14. And he's been living here in this country and loving it ever since. Jake, welcome to Right Side Patriots.
Hello, Craig. Hello, Diane. I'm glad to be on the show. Hi, everyone.
Boy, I'll tell you, it is so timely to have you on as a guest. But before we get into the whole Ukraine and Russia and Putin and Obama and all that mess that's going on over there, I want to let people know that you, Jake, have written a book, Aftertaste from Russia, and I'm telling you, folks, if you go online and you look this book up and you buy it, you will not be able to put it down. Jake, what made you want to write the book?
Well, that's a great question, Craig. The book is called Aftertastes and Tales from Russia. And there are several reasons why I decided to write this book. One is I heard Obama speak in debates in 2008. When he first decided to put his candidacy for presidency. And when he started to talk on a national scale, and he started to make his speeches about equality, about all the things that need to be spread around, that everybody has to play by the same rules, the hair on the back of my neck literally stood up. I looked at my wife, who's also from former Soviet Union, and we both looked at each other and we said, my God, this is like Lenin, Stalin reincarnated. This guy, his speeches, his terms, his paths from certain, books, certain phrases. I mean, you can pick up Communist Manifesto, and you will probably find many phrases that Obama uses in his speeches. This is how scary it was to me. So I decided to start speaking out more than I did before. I was a little active, maybe talking to a few people here and there. I decided to literally start talking and literally trying to make people aware of what I see. And then I realized that people were listening, people were asking questions. So I said, you know what? Instead of me typing over and over somewhere in the comments areas or blogs, let me put something together that people can pick up and at their leisure read or maybe give to a friend or a neighbor so they can see what it is that people like me see in Obama and this whole society. So I decided to put this book together. And I gave it a name like that because I have a bad aftertaste after that society, and this is my tales.
Well, and the book itself is so fascinating because you start out the book talking about life in Ukraine. You were born in Kiev, Ukraine. You talk about life in the Soviet Union and what things were like, and it's just horrible. I mean, when you hear this, when you read the stories, you can almost hear Jake's voice in the stories when you read them, and you just think, how can a country sink to those levels? But that was the Soviet Union.
It's almost like a revisiting of the old pogroms. Remember those?
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely, because my family we're Soviet Jews. So, of course, even though Tsar was terrible and a lot of Jews welcomed a change, nobody knew what the change is, and nobody realized that the change could be worse than what it was before. See, Tsar was brutal. He was egotistical. Maybe he was not a good person, and he liked to empower the rich and make poor poorer. Well, the communists didn't do better than what they promised. I mean, they promised something that could never be delivered. If you deliver equality through government for two people, one person will say, hey, I can work, I cannot work, I'm still getting the same. And that's the problem with socialism and communism and all those isms, is that people do not want to be equal forced by government. The only equality that you have is the equality that we had before in America. You have equal opportunity. You have equal way to do things if you really want to do them. If somebody tells you you're equal, that's not the way to live.
No, and especially you can't be, everybody can't be equal. Let's just tell the truth. You're always going to have richer people. You're always going to have poorer people, but everyone can have the same opportunities to strive to become the richer people. And that was taken away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Dan. We saw the way the equality is pushed by the government. They tell you that you're equal. They tell you that you're part of something greater. But I'm a Soviet Jew. I was getting a beating from my peers. I was getting sometimes a smack from my teachers, from officials in school for being Jewish, strictly just for being Jewish. So what kind of equality is that? That I'm just being patronized for being Jewish. I mean, I was not even religious. In my passport, it said I was Jewish because Jewish was a nationality in Russia.
Right, and it's not really a nationality. Anybody can be Jewish. It's just a religion. It's a religion that certain people choose to follow. It's not a nationality per se, and that people all over the internet seem to be confusing that. They talk about the Jewish people. The Jewish people is just like Muslims. It's people who follow a specific religion. Muslims follow Islam. The Jews follow the Jewish religion. It's not a nationality, people. Anyone can be Jewish.
Well, Diane, that's a great statement, but I will actually argue with people that I believe it is a nationality because in Russia, we were considered Jewish, we were patronized, we were prejudiced against for being Jewish, and I was never religious until I got to America. This is the sad part. You're right. Judaism is a religion. Judaism is united by a Torah, by religious beliefs, by certain criteria. But in Russia, in my passport, it said Jewish. In my wife's passport, we weren't even 18 years old, but we had already documents that said Jewish. Just like it says Russian, Lithuanian, Ukrainian, it said Jewish. That's how they treat everybody equally.
You know, there's so much going on right now and I'm starting to call it the Soviet Union again. I mean, for years and years, I've referred to it as Russia, but because of what's going on, I'm now starting to call it the Soviet Union again. And with all this stuff going on in Ukraine, Crimea has now literally been taken over by Vladimir Putin and the Soviet Union. Jake, you know, I'm sure you still know people that live there. This has got to be hard for you to watch.
It's hard for me to watch, but I'm an American, so I'm watching it like you, like everybody else. Of course, we have some relatives. For example, when my mom passed away in America, an aunt found me on Facebook, which is interesting. An aunt, a 70-something-year-old aunt, found me on Facebook. She lives in Moscow, but my other aunt lives in Kiev. And we were talking on Skype, and I'm like, what are you doing in Moscow? And then I realized she doesn't want to be in Kiev right now. So yes, it's hard to know that some people that, you know, your relatives, maybe my parents have some friends who they didn't keep in touch with, but still, you know, they know some people there, they're going through this turmoil. And yeah, it's difficult to see this country unravel from bad to worse because Soviet Union was not great. Communism was not great. It was miserable. It was very bad way to live for people. But now it's not getting any better. It seems like the whole system is about to crash again.
You know, Diane and I were talking a little bit earlier today about the situation over there, knowing that we were going to be speaking with you on Right Side Patriots this afternoon. And Diane had what I thought was an absolutely brilliant observation as to the end game in all of this. So, Diane, what is it?
Basically, Vladimir Putin does not want to really restore the old Soviet Union. What Vladimir Putin wants to do is restore the Russian Empire, as in the Russian Empire of the Tsars. He wants to make himself Tsar Vladimir Putin the First, because he does not want to really go back to communism, because if you think about it, Russia made a lot of money by embracing to some degree capitalism and free enterprise. He's not going to give that up to go back to the old ways. He's going to line his pockets as much as he can. And he can't do it the other way. But if he goes back to the glory days of the Russian Empire, he sure can.
That's a great observation. I mean, because a lot of different republics, sort of previous republics, which are countries now, they have a lot of natural resources. For example, when Russia first broke up, Ukraine was one of the first big players in the breakup of Russia as the Soviet Union, and Ukraine had the second largest arsenal of nuclear power. So Ukraine was asked to surrender their nuclear power because they had the second in the world largest collection of nuclear weapons. I mean, so of course, Soviet Union lost a lot of different resources like gas, natural resources like gold. But the most important thing, Ukraine has the arsenal of nuclear weapons. And Ukraine, even though people say Ukraine doesn't have a strong army, Ukraine still has a powerful army. And Putin is not afraid of it, but he's threatened.
Putin is also not a stupid man like our president is. Putin is not out to start World War III. Putin is out for Putin.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
He's not going to throw nukes or anything. He wants to control the energy sources into Europe, into his part of the world. He wants to be the foot on the European economies without crushing those economies because he needs them for his goals, for his everything he wants. He can't cross that line. Vladimir Putin, whether people realize it or not, is nowhere near as dangerous as Barack Hussein Obama is.
I agree. I mean, Putin wants to make his country rich. Putin, of course, Putin cares about one person. That's Putin. But Putin does not make empty promises. If Putin said he's going to do something, he's going to do it.
Exactly.
Whether it's good or bad, he's going to do it. Where Barack Obama made one honest statement that nobody listened to. He said, I fundamentally want to change America. And people thought that's a good thing. I mean, why would you want to change something that's been prosperous and the greatest nation in the world? America has been the greatest nation in the world in the shortest period of time in history, and Obama wants to change that? How is that could be good?
It's for one reason and one reason only. It's the gimme, 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 you owe me entitlement generation that thinks we owe them everything. So let's change it so we can give them more free stuff. So they could have what we have without working for it.
Well, Jake, let me ask you this. Given the situation as it stands today with Obama, issuing a few more, just another small handful of sanctions against, another 8 or 9 people, Vladimir Putin then sanctioning, a handful of Americans, the situation really isn't about that. The situation is about the troops that are in Crimea, the troops that are in Ukraine right now. Is there any way possible to keep Ukraine a sovereign nation at this point?
You know what? If we had somebody, I'll give you an example of what I heard, and then I'll tell you my opinion quickly. I heard a liberal professor from NYU on the Russian studies, liberal person, who voted for Obama twice. I don't know why or how, but he said that we do not have a leader in the White House that can stand up to somebody like Putin. We need someone like Reagan. Reagan said peace through strength, and Obama said, I'm going to be more flexible. Let's look at those two statements. We have a gymnast in chief, and we have a real man like Reagan. I mean, who is Putin going to respect? See, people like Putin, they don't become heads of KGB by baking a pie. They become heads of KGB because they kill, they murder, they lie, they connive people, they're smart, they're brutal. I mean, Obama is none of those things. How can Putin respect Obama? Now, the situation in Crimea. Crimea it used to be a Russian territory. So obviously there's a lot of Russians living there. Obviously Putin feels that he has a claim to that territory, not exactly unjustifiable, but not exactly that the way Putin wants to take over. But I don't think Putin is going to stop at Crimea once he's started. See, this situation, like yesterday somebody pointed out, the ship has sailed. Putin is no longer listening to anybody but Putin. So once there is a first shot fired, I believe there will be a civil war, unfortunately. Obama, with his sanctions and his big words, I mean, everybody knows already. His red lines mean nothing. His red lines are pink.
Well, so a civil war in that part of the world, let's say between Russia and Ukraine, is bound to spill over other borders. I mean, how does Poland feel about this? How does Latvia feel about this? So many of the NATO countries that are in that region. Is a civil war actually kind of a diversion or something to mask taking those sovereign nations back under Russian control too?
Well, that's a great question, Craig, because I think Putin is smarter than that, and I don't think he's going to start anything with countries that are not part of original Soviet Union. So, for example, if he goes after Latvia, Latvia was part of original Soviet Union, where Poland was just an ally that we put our troops in, so to speak. So Poland is now a sovereign nation, but Latvia, I don't think Putin looks at Latvia the same way he looks at Poland. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think he's going to go outside of original Soviet borders, but I do think that you're right. I mean, he will open that gate and he will say, well, since we already kind of put our troops on the ground, let us kind of unite our nation so we're strong again and we help each other. He's probably going to play it from a political standpoint rather than physical, military standpoint, but he will try to push it, but not beyond. I don't believe he's going to go beyond Soviet original borders, because that would start a NATO war. That would start UN troops will come in with their blue hats and do nothing, and then Obama will make speeches. And I don't think Putin wants too many speeches from Obama.
Well, I'll tell you, I hope you're right, because the last thing I want to see over there is a shooting war start, because I know, and I think everybody realizes that Obama, you know, the great leader from behind, simply would be useless in a situation like that. And the European Union, they've almost got their hands tied right now because they rely on Russian fuel and Russian energy. They're not really sure what to do at this point either.
They're absolutely, you're right. They're absolutely, their hands are tied, and we don't have a leader. I mean, we have someone that in cartoons they portray as, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to write you a letter of how angry I am. This is what Obama does. Obama makes a huge speech and then nobody really listens. Even liberals, I don't think, take him seriously anymore. I mean, this is how sad it is that even his base is no longer listening to this man. I mean,
and the thing is, everybody keeps saying Obama's leading from behind. Obama's not leading at all.
That's right.
He's not leading at all.
Good point. Great point. Yes, absolutely.
Well, what do you see, Jake, as you know, things move forward? What do you see happening over there in Ukraine, let's say over the next 2 to 3 weeks?
2 to 3 weeks, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I know, I can tell you, almost guarantee you that there will be a civil war. Maybe it's going to be in the next month. Maybe it's going to be in the next year. But that situation is not going to go away by itself. Putin is not going to back down, because once Putin, to him, it's pride more than anything too. So he already put the troops. He already committed. He's not like someone like Obama. Oh, we're going to go into Syria only if they blow another person up. Only if they spit, in the direction of America. Only if they're going to go to the bathroom one extra time. I mean, Putin is not making speeches. Putin said he's going to take Crimea and he will try. Now, of course, Ukrainians will not give it up without a fight. And I believe there will be a civil war. There will be some kind of a military action. And I believe it will happen. I don't know. I hope it's not going to be long or it's not going to be brutal, but it will be. There will be something. There will definitely be something.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. There's so many different things going on in the world right now, but the one thing I would never take my eyes off of is the Russian bear. This man knows what he wants. And like you said, he's not going to back down. And he's laughing his head off at Obama. And can you really blame him?
I mean, can you put, well, let's take a look at the schoolyard, for example. Can you put somebody like Putin and Obama in the same schoolyard and actually pretend that they might be friends? I mean, if Obama wasn't the president of the United States, Putin would probably run circles about him in any ring, in any wrestling match. I mean, Putin is like I said, Putin is a tough, brutal. I'm not praising Putin, but you have to respect him, man. Obama is a lost case. I mean, Obama is unfortunately this is our failure. This is American failure.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing I worry about the most is Putin is now starting to step up his association with Iran, and he is promising Iran any weapons they want. Because this is all going to wind up spilling over with Iran and Israel, and Putin is going to use his superiority right now over the West to back Iran against Israel.
Isn't that? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan.
No, go ahead. I'm not so sure about that, Craig, because Putin is a lot of things. He's a lot of things. Some good, some bad. But I don't think Putin really wants to see Israel wiped off the map. I really don't.
I see he might not want Israel to suffer, but he's doing everything to show America that he does not care. This is not to offend Israel. This is not to attack Israel. This is literally to show to Obama, to America, that Putin does what Putin wants to do, and Obama cannot do anything about it. You see, I mean, somebody like Reagan walks into the room, walking tall. I mean, he walks into the room, meets Gorbachev for the first time in a brutal winter, and he's not wearing a coat against a Russian leader. That shows some character. That shows some man inside this person. Obama comes into the meeting and he appeases everybody. He wants to be a gymnast in every room. He wants to show that he can be a diplomat. Obama can't even make a statement that sticks to anybody, and Putin is a leader. Obama is not.
Well, the one reason I believe that Putin really doesn't want to hurt Israel is because unreported in the American papers, but reported in the Israeli papers, many times Netanyahu has gone back and forth recently to Russia.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can see it. You can look it up in the Israeli papers. He has made many trips to Russia. He has met with Putin and the ranking Russian officials. It's almost like Putin respects Netanyahu. Netanyahu respects Putin, and neither one of them, respect Obama. And if you also have to remember, during the Bush years, Putin stayed low. He was quiet. And the reason he was quiet is he respected Bush. They were actually friends. He had actually gone to Bush's ranch a number of times. Putin seems to be the kind of man that if you respect the leader, you respect the country. Well, now Putin does not respect our leader, so he no longer respects us. If we get a strong leader in place, we might see a more in-control Putin. Just my opinion.
I completely agree. I mean, for example, somebody like Putin, look at his history. Look at Bush. Some people might make jokes about Bush, but he was an Air Force pilot. Look at Bibi Netanyahu. Bibi Netanyahu was in the military. He was in the Israeli military. Now, these three men might not like each other, but you have certain respect towards men that are men. Now you look at someone like Obama, never achieved anything, never did anything that's worth talking about. He organized a community where he was basically preaching to people to take advantage of dependency, whether they need the dependency or not. And now this man is going to talk to a leader like Putin, somebody who was actually in a very tough military position, and he went through the ranks of KGB, one of the most brutal organizations. And you're going to have this community organizer telling him what to do and what not to do. There's no respect there.
None, and it's almost comical, to be honest. It's almost comical. You have little skinny, Barack Obama in his mom jeans going against the Russian bear. The images are just too funny.
Jake Davichevsky is our guest today, and Jake, in the few minutes we've got left, I have got to get you to tell the story about the first day that you and your family were in America. You were 14 years old. This to me was one of the most compelling stories in your whole book. And you guys come to the United States. You don't really know what to expect. You've been told a lot of things about the United States that later you would find out simply weren't true. But that first day, you've got to tell our listeners the story of what happened when you and your father went to the market.
We went to a supermarket. I believe it was Stop and Shop at the time. And we just wanted to buy a few groceries, just so we can have a meal, maybe some sandwiches to be made or something like that. And we go to the store, and the store looks almost empty because we got here, it was during the day, it was a rainy day, and there was barely anybody in the store. So we looked through the store, and if anybody's seen that scene in Moscow on the Hudson, when he goes to the American supermarket, and he sees coffee, and he goes, coffee, 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 and he faints. Robin Williams faints in that scene. Well, we looked at the bread, we looked at the bologna, we looked at the juice, and we almost fainted at all the different options we had. I mean, it's not just one juice, it's not just one couple of different sorts of bread. You got all multiple different kinds. You got different brands, different companies, and you literally start to lose your head to what to pick. So we get a few items, and we go to the register. and the cashier just stands there. And in Russia, if the cashier just stands there, most likely they're on break, and you're afraid to ask them to do anything, because if you upset them, they might just tell you to leave the store, and you might not buy the groceries you need, and you're not going to find them in another store. Because in Russia, you can't just go to any store and buy whatever you need. So we're standing there, and she's looking at us, we're looking at her. My father knew some words in English, and I knew less. I knew nothing. So she gestures to us, and we get a little nervous. We come up, she grabs the first item, and she starts to check us out. And the relief, like a bag, literally a sandbag, is off our shoulders. Because we feel, wow, we're actually going to get these groceries without a line, and she's not at lunch.
Now, the finish to this story is what the cashier told you as you were leaving. She
said, thank you for shopping. And this is amazing, because in the Soviet store, even in some stores in Brooklyn, because the mentality is somewhat similar from the older people, they never thank you for shopping, because in the Soviet store, you thank them because you're afraid that if you upset them, next time you shop, they're going to remember you and they're going to say, you can't shop here anymore. And they don't care, because there is no competition. There is no customer service. It's a government-owned store. They're government employees. They're gods. They're literally gods. Store clerks, store managers, they're gods. So you don't want to upset them. In fact, sometimes you want to bring them a present from time to time, so you make them feel good about themselves, and yet you're going to be able to shop with your own money in that store.
I'm telling you, folks, it's a fantastic read. Jake, tell people how they can get a hold of your book.
Sure, Craig. They can buy After Tastes and Tales from Russia. They can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. They can go to a store and just ask for the book, and the store can order the book for them if they don't want to buy it online. They can also buy it in a Nook, Kindle, and Google ebook formats. They can just type online After Tastes and Tales from Russia, and they can purchase the book. And what I suggest, after you read the book and you liked it, give it to a friend, give it to a relative. Let other people see and read it. Maybe it will wake up a few people.
It's such a fantastic book. It's such a fantastic read. You will find in that book the stark differences between the Soviet Union and the United States from back in 1979. And trust me, what we're heading for in this country right now is pretty much what Jake left in 1979. And Jake Danishevsky, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. I am so glad we were able to get you. And, we would love to have you back again as we continue to go through this situation with Russia, Putin, Obama, Ukraine, and whatever other countries this is going to spill out into.
Craig, Diane, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a true honor. And I want to thank you, listeners. It's been a real pleasure to be on the show, and I would love to come back.
After Tastes and Tales from Russia, and the little tagline at the bottom of that is, pardon me for being anti-socialist.
Socialism.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fantastic book. Jake, thank you so much for being our guest on Right Side Patriots today, and we look forward to having Jake back again as soon as possible. Folks, stay with us. We've got some more show coming up for you. Don't go anywhere. I believe that every single one of us
has what it takes
to win back-to-back gold.
Ski faster than any other human.
I believe it's possible to overcome fear.
I believe
it's possible to destroy stereotypes.
To start over, to be the toughest,
the strongest,
the bravest in the world. And when we work together, we can make it all possible. That's why Citi has donated $500,000 through its Every Step of the Way program, an initiative created to help future athletes reach their full potential through sport programs that inspire us. Like figure skating in Harlem.
Like youth enrichment services. Like Team for Tomorrow.
The Team USA Stay on the Slopes initiative.
Now spread the word and help decide how much of that money goes toward
offering personal support and financial assistance to Olympians in need.
Promoting the growth of hockey in the U.S.
Expanding the sport of luge into new regions.
Support for wounded service members. Join Team Citi and let's turn a world of potential into reality.
Go to citi.com/everystep and help decide where the money goes.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
And we're back on Right Side Patriots. Craig Andreessen from the National Patriot with Diane Sori from the Patriot Factor. Diane, we have had two great guests on the show today.
Yes, we have, and we will hopefully have them both back again as the situation with Oath Keepers in our country moves down that horrible path to socialism, and Jake to keep us abreast of everything that's happening in the Ukraine, because that situation does affect us all.
Well, and we can see happening over there what Obama wants to have happen over here. And Diane, a big part of that took place very quietly last Friday when everybody was out looking for that missing airplane.
Absolutely.
Obama started actually the process of handing the internet over to a global community of who knows who.
Exactly. And we don't know what they're going to do with it. People keep saying, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just who pushes what buttons, whatever. But it is a big deal. America invented the internet. We've kept a great eye on it all these years. We've let people do whatever they want, say whatever they want with very little censorship. Can you imagine if this gets in the hands of anybody that's pro-Islamic?
Or pro-socialist or pro-communist? I mean, the doors are wide open. Let me give people just a little bit of a background as to how the internet even came about. And this is really in a nutshell. And I know we've got a lot of listeners out there who could take this history a lot further than I'm about to. But the internet was actually the brainchild of U.S. government agencies starting back in the 1960s. It was then built and kind of came to fruition in the early 1990s. Now, there was a very forward-thinking fellow running the House of Representatives at the time that went and still does go by the name of Newt Gingrich. And Newt decided that the government should be hands-off when it comes to the internet, so he sponsored a bill, and he got the thing passed, and it kept the FCC and other government agencies from sticking their noses in the internet and trying to regulate the darn thing and trying to censor it and trying to make it this and that and the other thing that it was never intended to be. So every time our listeners log on to the internet, every time they go to Facebook, every time they go to their email, every time they go look at the news or listen to Right Side Patriots on CPR Worldwide Media Network, you can thank Newt Gingrich for allowing the internet to be what it is today. Now, Obama says in September of 2015, 1 year out from the 2016 general election, the internet will be turned over to an international consortium. Folks, there is no plan in place. The Commerce Secretary said the other day, this was Friday, we look forward to ICANN, ICANN. That is the agency they're turning it over to, who will then turn it over to the international consortium. We look forward to ICANN coming up with a plan. So you're turning this over. You're telling me you're turning over the internet, of all things, to an organization that doesn't even have a plan.
Exactly. But you are wrong on one thing. And it's very serious, Craig. I'm so surprised at you. You forget Al Gore invented the internet.
Oh, what was I thinking?
How could you forget that?
My mind was addled with global warming. What can I say?
It must have been. But seriously, what most people don't understand, or maybe they do, is that no serious complaints about American stewardship of the internet have ever been done. There's been no abuses perpetrated by America, who has overseen the internet very successfully. When you think of all the different things that can happen with this ICANN taking over, I mean, you will have sides pitted against sides. Who should control an internet domain? Who should be punished for what? Who could say what? Who can't say what? It's an attempt to control the flow of information. It's a attempt to control freedom of speech.
Think about it, folks. I mean, think about how much the internet plays a role in your daily life. You have it on your telephones, your smartphones. You have it in your office. You use it for work. You make your connections with it. You pay your bills by the internet. You communicate we're communicating by the internet right now. You email, you chat, you do Facebook, you connect to people. And other people doing this all over the world. Now the internet, all of those communications, everything that you do, including, folks, your banking, is going to be in the hands of an international group of who knows who, and it's going to be operated and run akin to the United Nations. Now, how does that make you feel?
Makes you feel pretty crappy, especially, and this is the real kicker, many foreign leaders, the reason they pushed so much for this is because of the Eric Snowden leaks. They wanted to remove U.S. control because of the Eric Snowden leaks. And these two things are totally, totally different things. And people don't understand that. Here it is, we have a free country allowing people to say what they want, when they want. There is maybe one or two little things that you can't say on the internet, but those are the same things that are part of our Constitution. You don't want to incite violence on the internet. You don't want to do death threats on the internet. But those are just basic rules that most people understand. Otherwise, there's really no censorship. I mean, you even have pornographers on the internet, as sick as that is. Can you imagine what's going to happen with these other countries controlling it? With the UN, who I call the useless nations because they are useless, except for pushing their socialist Islamic agenda. This is going to be a nightmare. And where is the American outrage? I haven't heard any.
Well, that's because so many people don't even realize this happened on Friday. Like I said, everybody was looking for the airplane. And, late Friday afternoon, as they do with so many other things that they don't want people to know about, the Obama regime released this little tidbit of information that in September of 2015, they're turning over the internet to an international consortium. Now, you've got to remember, folks, you've got to remember this. All of your communications these days are done via the internet in one way or another. In some form or another, everybody winds up using the internet for something. And the internet is the free flow of information from point A to B and C to D and E to F. It is the free flow of information. How many countries in this world? Jake Danishevsky came from a country that did not want any free flow of information. There are still countries like that today. How many of those countries are going to get a seat at the table, as Obama likes to call it, to manipulate the internet? This is what's really frightening about this.
Exactly. And the outrage isn't just here, but part of that is the media's fault because 24/7 they have been focusing on this plane. Yes, this plane is a serious thing, but they are using it to divert us from everything Obama. He snuck this through because he had the media covering for him by broadcasting the plane. Yeah, I want them to find the plane already, but I also want them to get back to focusing on what's important to our country and our people.
Well, and that's what we've got to do. And this is a wake-up call. I mean, this is what we do here on Right Side Patriots. This is what Diane does in the Patriot Factor. It's what I do on the National Patriot every day. We're trying to wake people up. This is a wake-up call. We are a year and a few months away from losing control of the internet in this country. It's a great thing, the internet. And this is part of the Obama regime. We can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things in this country, because if we have something that's nicer than somebody else, we have to give it to them.
And that's just wrong. I'm sorry. You can have all the nice things you want. Work for them. Nobody is entitled to what somebody else has worked hard for. They want it, let them go out and work for it. I am so sick and tired of this whole entitlement generation, this whole gimme, gimme, gimme. Work your own butts off like the rest of us have to get what we have. Nobody owes you anything.
No, and you know, here we go out and we build this thing. We let the entire planet use it. I mean, look, there are some places like North Korea, Little Kim, he won't let you use the internet, but it's there if he would, and we certainly wouldn't discourage the North Koreans from using the internet. We built a system for the entire planet to use as a communications device, an information gathering device, the free flow of ideas device. You call it whatever you want. And we have graciously allowed the entire world to utilize it. But because it belongs to us, because we invented it, because we have control, quote unquote, control over the internet. And by control, I mean that we don't really control it. We just let people use it. Suddenly it has to be something we need to give away. And I'm sick of this, folks. I mean, look, we built the Panama Canal. We gave that away. Thank you, Jimmy Carter. You know, we've given China all sorts of our, you know, top secret information, you know, to help them build their own, you know, rockets and manned space program and airplanes. And they're going to have stealth capabilities here in a little bit because we gave the stuff away, you know, and now here we are giving the internet away. It makes me sick.
Well, basically, you know, we created an international superhighway. The internet is a superhighway that now Barack Hussein Obama and his ilk have built detours on it, have put roadblocks on it. And this is just wrong. This belongs to America, our gift to the world. You don't take back gifts. You're not an Indian giver. You don't take back gifts.
I'll tell you what. Because we know the world is listening, because the internet is open, and we know we have listeners in other parts of the world, not just the United States. I'll tell you what. If you live in a country and you're listening to Right Side Patriots right now, if you live in a country that wants control of something, that you think that maybe Barack Obama is not such a bad guy, and that him giving your country control of the internet is maybe a good thing, I'll make you a deal. You can have Obama. We get to keep the internet. How's that?
I love it. I'll even put a bow on his head and wrap him up nicely as a gift.
I'll lick a stamp and stick it on his ass and mail him away if I have to. I'm just saying, you know, the internet belongs here. He didn't even start out here in this country.
Exactly.
The internet did, for goodness sakes.
Exactly. I mean, can't you remember Al Gore sitting behind his desk doing the blueprints for it?
Well, that's what he told us. He invented the internet. You know, for goodness sakes, you know, I mean, that's before he invented global warming. Al's a busy guy.
Isn't he, though? Such a busy little bee.
Yeah, I'm being facetious here, but people, the internet belongs in the hands of a country who will maintain internet freedom, the free flow of ideas. One of the things that this international group is concerned with is that vicariously, via the internet, Western values, Western ideals are being spread around the globe. And maybe that's what they want to stop, is some of that.
Well, of course they do. I mean, the Islamic countries would love to shut us up because we're giving the people who can access the internet in those countries, and believe me, there are people that can, we're letting them know what's out there, the alternative to the miserable lives they're living. And God forbid these people actually get it in their heads, hey, there's something else out there besides these cesspools. Let's revolt. They can't afford that.
No, they can't. And folks, as we start to wrap up the show today, Diane is absolutely right. In Butt-Krakistan, they have goats with Wi-Fi. They get the internet. They live in caves, but they have goats that have Wi-Fi attached, and that's where they live. Look, we're going to keep on top of this. We're going to keep on top of the Ukraine thing. I hate to say it, but we're going to keep on top of the missing airplane. But we have had a fantastic show for you this afternoon. We look forward to next week. We want to thank our special guest, Bill Lumen, from the great organization Oath Keepers for all he does for this country, for standing up, for speaking out, for making his voice heard. And we want to thank our great friend, Jake Danishevsky. What a fantastic patriot he is. Diane, I know you've got a big article coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
And I've got a Friday Fume coming out on my blog tomorrow.
Tomorrow I'm going to tackle a little bit about the Ukraine again, because it is a serious situation, because like Jake said, it could be civil war over there. And we need to keep an eye on it, because what goes on in that area does affect us here. It affects us here more than 24/7 coverage of a plane.
Well, it sure does. And the one thing we all have to remember is that not everybody in this country was born free. Not everybody. But you and me and Kid Rock were. Folks, have a great rest of the day. We'll catch you next week on Right Side Patriots.
This is a station identification
Bye,
moment.
everybody.
You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Climbing, twisting, turning further from my home. Young, like a new moon rising, fierce through the rain and lightning, wandering out into this great unknown. And I don't want no one to cry, but tell them if I don't survive, an unknown stranger, grateful for my time with no